Hey, this is Mr. Warden. This is the pre-algebra exit ticket 23.1 video key, and that's week 23, day 1 of that week. So here we go. We're going to do some similar stuff to the previous exit ticket. We're going to evaluate 9 times 10 to the 22nd times 5 times 10 to the negative 6. So the first thing you want to do is group the coefficients. So 9 times 5. And then over there, you're going to also group the power. So 10 to the 22 times 10 to the negative 6. And then 9 times 5 is 45. And then that's going to be times 10 to the, we're going to say 22 plus negative 6. You want to add the exponents. And that becomes 45 times 10 to the 22 plus negative 6 is the same as 22 minus 6. So that's going to be 16. 16 plus 6 would be 22. All right, so now we are not in scientific notation format yet. So we need to make 45 10 times smaller. That means that's times 10 there. But we still have the 10 to the 16th to deal with. If I make 45 10 times smaller, we can just migrate that power of 10 over here to 10 to the 16th and make it 4.5 times 10 to the 17th. We made 45 10 times smaller, so 10 to the 16th had to be 10 times bigger. Okay, so that is that one. Let's take a look at the next one. The next one, we have 4 times 10 to the negative 18th, all to the second power. So we're going to be invoking the power rule instead of the product rule. So first of all, though, let's deal with our coefficient. We'll raise that to the second power, and then we will we'll deal with our exponent. So 10 to the negative 18th raised to the second power as well. So we separate those out, deal with the coefficient. The coefficient 4 times 4, or 4 squared, is 16. And then I've got 10 to the, I'll say negative 18. Since it's the power law, I'm multiplying the power. So negative 18 times 2. And that becomes 16 times 10 to the negative 36th power. And I've got to make 16 scientific notation worthy. So I'm going to need a decimal between the 1 and the 6. So it becomes 1.6. I made that 10 times smaller. So that's really 1.6 times 10, which is 16. And on that's going to be times 10 to the negative 36. If I migrate that factor of 10 over here, then I'm going to be, it's really 10 to the first power. So I'm just going to add the powers. 10 to the first plus negative 36, that's going to end up being 10 to the negative 35th, which makes sense because we made 16 10 times smaller. So we have to make 10 to the negative 36 10 times larger. And 10 to the negative 35th is 10 times larger than 10 to the negative 36th. Once again, we've got a division problem. 5.2 times 10 to the negative 6th divided by 1.3 times 10 to the negative 20th. All right, as has been the pattern with everything else, we are going to group our coefficients. So 5.2, and do this operation on the coefficients first. 5.2 divided by 1.3, and that's going to be times 10 to the negative 6 divided by 10 to the negative 20th. Okay. And now we'll deal with them separately. 5.2 divided by 1.3 is going to be 4. Okay, and that's going to be times 10. Well, this is division, so we're going to use the quotient law. So it's going to be 10 to the negative 6 minus negative 20. So 10 to the, I'll put it in parentheses to group it, negative 6 minus negative 20. And if you recall, your subtraction of negatives, if I'm taking away a negative, that's like adding a positive. So that's going to be 4 times 10 to the negative 6 plus 20 to be the same thing. So 4 times 10 to the 14th power. And I don't have to do anything because I'm already in scientific notation form. We're good to go. Now we're going to deal with this one. We've got 3 times 10 to the negative 6 cubed divided by 6 times 10 to the negative 8 times 6 times 9 times 10 to the negative 10th. So let's group our coefficients and group our powers. So our coefficients, 3 is getting raised to the third power, and then that's divided by 6 times 9. Okay, and then 10 to the negative 6. Okay, and that's going to end up being 10 to the negative 6 times 3 because that's our law here. So 10 to the negative 6 to the positive third power. So we'll put that there. And that's going to be divided by 10 to the negative 8th times 10 to the negative 10th. We're going to add those. We're going to add those exponents because we've got a product law situation. So here, 10 to the negative 8 plus negative 10 power. Okay, and all of that stuff together, let's start simplifying it. So 3 cubed is going to be 27, and 6 times 9 is going to be 54, which is conveniently twice 27. And let's start breaking down things with the powers. That'll end up being 10 to the negative 18th power, and that down there is going to be 10 to the negative 18th power as well. Okay, so over here I'm going to have 27 divided by 54 will be 0.5 because it's 1/2. And then over here I'll have 10 to the negative 18th. I'll raise that to the negative 18th minus negative 18. Well, if I'm subtracting the same thing from the same thing, I'm going to get 0. And this is the same as negative 18 plus 18. So I'll go ahead and write that in here so we can see that. 10 to the negative 18 plus 18. I'll put the power in parentheses so it's really clear what it's all there. It's all there. And I've got 0.5 times 10. Well, negative 18 plus 18 is 0. We are not in scientific notation format, though. We got to make 0.5 10 times bigger. So I'll call it 5.0 times 10. Well, if that's getting to be 10 times bigger, 10 to the 0 has to be 10 times smaller. So 10 to the negative 1 is 10 times smaller than 10 to the 0. 10 to the negative 1 is 1/10. 10 to the 0 is just 1. And we are done.